I'll switch it up here. I'm going to do a streamer for you. This is called a spruce fly. This is for sea-run cutthroat on the Oregon coast. They used to sell these in the Tillamook hardware store. The guy would make them there, but I'm going to show you how to do a wing like this that's always perfectly straight, not squampus, and it's real easy to do. Okay, so I'm going to get a bigger hook here, and you can use this for a muddler minnow wing, you can use it for a feather wing streamer, you know, whatever works for you. So get a triple length hook, put a thread base down. This is called peacock sword. This is what the tail is. A friend of mine called me and said the neighbor's peacock is bothering us. Come shoot it for fly time material. So that's a good place to get peacock. Okay, tie that wing or the tail on. I'm going to put a rib on here. Floss is really fairly fragile. So there's my rib. There went my rib. Okay. Now you notice I didn't trim the peacock sword. I'm going to leave that as an underbody up there because once again you want a smooth body right there. Now the books will tell you tie the floss on there and work back. No, I always tie the floss on and do 2 layers of it. So always do 2 layers of floss. I taught an Atlantic salmon fly class for 20 years, and there we always put on silk gloves when we used floss because you got rough hands, it'll mess up the floss, but I'm not going to do that with this fly. Okay, so I'm going to start wrapping down. Get my base layer. And this would be, I have caught fish on the South Fork swinging these, just for fun. You can see how my rough hands are fraying that floss. That's why you wear the silk gloves. Okay, so there's 2 layers of that. Wrap that off. I got some material under there. Here we go. Counter wrap your tinsel or your wire 5 times. I promise you, if you do an even number, you'll look at it and go, it just doesn't look artistic. I always want to do things in odd numbers there. Okay, so here I'm going to put a peacock thorax, I guess you call it. Now, there's a trick about peacock too. This is the tip, and this is the base. Whoops, got it backwards. So the tip is always weak, and the base is strong. So I always reverse them. So I'm tying a base to a tip, then a tip to a base down here. That way, it makes it stronger and it gives more even width there. So I'm just going to tie that like that. I usually make 2 layers of that also. Something about peacock and pheasant tail gets fish attention. So if you got either one of those materials, you're in good shape. Okay, so I'm tie that down. Cut that off. Let's see. I'm gonna put a hackle on now. Okay, so just a regular hand hackle. As a kid, I had to deal with the neighbors. I would clean and process all their chickens in exchange for their skins. And I think this is one of the feathers I got back then. Where'd my hackle pliers go? Okay, now there's a trick to hackles here. Notice how the hackle flows back. You see that, Mark? You see how that hackle flows back? Okay, that's what you want. You don't want to tie a hackle on that's squampus. So there's a trick to that. It's called folding the feather. So you take that feather, stroke it down. You want to pinch it so the fibers all go one direction. Then you want to take your needle and just go tick, 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 tick on both sides of that stem. And then pinch it again. See how those fibers all go to one side? Does that make sense? Pinch it back. Then now as you wrap forward, everything flows back really nice. See, I don't even have to stroke it back after each time. I can just wrap it like that. Okay, tie that off. Now I'm going to bring everything back. Here's where you want a firm, smooth thread base. Right there. Okay, now I'm going to do the wings. Here's the trick to making your feather wings perfect every time. So I'm going to get 2 feather wings. You want them to go just perfectly smooth back. The books will tell you, and the books are all wrong, just tie them in right there. And usually they'll squamp out, get squampus, they'll go haywire. The trick is get the length, strip the fibers off, like that. Shorten that just a little bit. So that's a little bit too long. I'm going to shorten them a little bit more. Like that. So I'm not going to tie it in this way. I'm going to tie it in backwards. Tie it like that. Whoops. Getting ahead of myself. I'm going to trim that stem down just a little bit. Maybe a 1/4 inch. So that stem will kind of go right into the hackles. It'll disappear. Make sure my thread is tight. I'm just going to wrap that bare stem just like that. I'm going to wrap backwards towards the body. See how that's tied in like that? Once again, those stems are side by side like that. Now the trick is grab that, pull it back, tie those stems down, and see how that gives you a mostly straight wing there. Now see how it kicks up at an angle? Let me tie it off and I'll show you how to fix that. And also by having that tied in, the stem looped, it's not gonna pull out. The feather's gonna break before that pulls out. Okay, now to make that feather curve, grab your bodkin, put it underneath that stem, pull the feather down and the bodkin up. You're gonna kind of bend the stem. See how I'm pressing that up? And that gives it, so it goes over the body. Now I want to get that a little bit more. I'm going to go back a little bit further. And see how that gives it really nice. If you look at it, can you see that head on? It's really tight. So if you're doing presentation flies, you're framing flies, you're doing Atlantic salmon underwings, that's how you do it to get that perfectly shaped wing. And you saw how you don't have to think about it. Just bring it over, it works.